We are at the Ravenala Hotel in the northern part of Mauritius. And in this edition, we're not going to talk specifically about the hospitality industry or the hotel industry, but we're going to talk about technology. Everything is related to technology nowadays. Hotel industry, of course, banking, manufacturing, everything. We are going to talk about Industry 4.0. We're going to see how Internet of Things, blockchain, it's everywhere. Now, 4.0, this is a concept where team synthesis lay much emphasis on, and they're talking about what's going to take a new revolution and how it is going to affect many industries and, of course, institutions like universities, for example, how training is going to be done around that. And we're going to see people who are here gathered to talk about Industry 4.0 and to see how they can make recommendations and how they can see how people are going to adapt around Industry 4.0. And Mauritius, with the ambition of becoming a cyber island, cannot escape that. So we're going to see with people from different spheres, from different industries, how they're going to adapt to Industry 4.0. Mr. Chipeng Tang, so you are the CEO of Team Synthesis, which is organizing this important conference on Industry 4.0. When we talk about Industry 4.0, Internet of Things, where machines are communicating with each other, we get the impression we're talking about this film Matrix, where machines have taken control of the human's life. Now, is that real? Is it what we're talking about? How do we make sure that humans still have control over things happening here around us?
I think Matrix probably is a very good example how things can go very wrong in Industry 4.0. But I think we will not have the pleasure to come to the stage because human will be far gone before even that happen. Why? Because Industry 4.0 has this special attribute as compared with the previous three revolutions. We have the first industrial revolution, where mechanization that helped tremendously, relieving human from mundane, thankless tasks. Then comes the second revolution, where things are being mass produced. Therefore, it becomes affordable, and therefore, it pump up the level of affordability, and therefore, the society or the societal class changes. Then comes the industrial revolution in the early 70s, and where IT automation happened, right? And in many ways, our society, not only Mauritius, but Singapore and Malaysia, we are still stuck in time dimension of Industry 2.5 to Industry 3.0. But Industry 4.0 is a different kettle of fish altogether. The distribution feature is, it combines, it integrates, it changes the way we interact, we live, we work, we think, and we socialize. It changes in an exponential manner over exponential time. That means it's very fast, right? And it promotes something called the digital space, the digital economy, the digital enterprises, the digital learning, the digital employee, whatever digital you have, digital twin in manufacturing, if you may. So the implication of Industry 4.0 is very damning. It's up to you to look at it, whether the glass of water is half full or half empty. Either way, you're right. Now, if you choose to look at it as half full, you'll become optimistic. And that is the purpose of this particular conference, where we are doing our very best to get the 150 organizations attending this conference to prepare a plan. And 3 weeks down the road, we are going to conduct a masterclass. All these have been very well crafted and very well planned because this is what is required to address the challenges in Industry 4.0.
So we're talking all this revolution which is coming with technology. Now we know the next generation will be full-fledged, full swing in this kind of industry, Industry 4.0, and maybe there will be Industry 5.0. Now how to get them prepared for this?
Believe it or not, some organizations in Mauritius already have pockets of excellence in Industry 4.0, right? For example, in the financial services, fintech is Industry 4.0 for financial services. Now the challenge is this, how much people know. So ignorance is a big issue. So this conference serves as a purpose. But apart from addressing ignorance, you need to actively plan against it. So ignorance for not planning is inexcusable, right? So I think media, the fourth estate, has a lot of critical and crucial role in the development of any country, which you have been doing very well in terms of promoting the challenges, the impact, the implication of Industry 4.0. How do we prepare? It depends on what we want to do in life, right? So likewise for organization as well. Some organizations have big plans, but therefore they also need to know that in their physical economy where they are thriving now, it doesn't translate into successes if you become myopic and still stick with your physical economy. Why? Because the digital economy is growing 10 times faster. So even if you are doing okay and maintain 5% to 10% growth in your physical economy, in no time, because the digital economy is growing bigger than you, you will become a very small player. And I always say this, and I will keep repeating until people do not want to hear this. A young lady renting a place in Rosale. Why renting? Don't have money to buy. If she get a business model correct and the idea correct, she can take on the biggest of boys, not in Mauritius, only around the world, and win. Industry 4.0 is a great democratizer and a great leveler of opportunities. Everybody now start equally.
So you mean like a small country like Mauritius has no complex vis-a-vis like big countries like America or European countries or Asian countries?
Yes and no. If you look at the blueprint we crafted for companies and countries, we discovered there are 5 things that we need to consider. But among the 5 things will be investment. So the same question is true. Forget about Industry 4.0 for the time being. Your brick and mortar, physical economy, do you also have to consider investment? Yes. So it has nothing to do with Industry 4.0. So in the physical economy, how do you grow, taking what you have and look at opportunity and divert your investment into those growth areas? Nothing changes in Industry 4.0. You need to focus on the area of growth, but you need to do it differently, right? Because with the advent of the 9 pillars in Industry 4.0, you can do things faster, you can integrate. The greatest challenge is you need to massively collaborate. For people that used to think in physical economy, you got enemies, you got competitors, I suggest that we start thinking how to collaborate with your enemy. As a lot of people say, bring your friend close, but bring your enemy closer. So that's how to survive in Industry 4.0.
Professor Jerry, you're the Vice Chancellor at the University of Mauritius. Please tell us, at the university, innovation, research, and the need to develop entrepreneurs is a very important segment in the education program at the university. Please tell us more how Industry 4.0 relates to this mismatch.
This conference on Industry 4.0 I think is very important. It's important because it helps us reflect on where the world is moving. And as the university is a full part of the system, I think it's very important that we also participate fully into the reflection of how we drive Industry 4.0. You know very well that the university from the past and a half year now has been actively involved in developing relationship with the private sector and the public sector through that triple helix. We think that innovation is very important. And we came up with a vision of having a research engaged and entrepreneurial university. So to accompany this vision, which is about moving research and moving entrepreneurial activities to support innovation, to accompany that vision, it's obvious that the teaching has to change. We cannot rely on what we refer to as classroom 1.0, where the teacher is at the center of the classroom. we need to go towards the 2.0 system. In big universities, they're already talking of, at NUS for example, already talking of classroom 3.0. That is total interaction, student at the center of the learning process. We don't have the means to jump to the 3.0, but at least we have to make an effort to go to the 2.0, which means that the learner is at the center. We no longer have that traditional classroom type where everybody sits down in the classroom and waits for the lecturer or the teacher to deliver everything. This is where we have that kind of spoon feeding in our country. We have to get away from that and give the learner, especially at the university, give the learner the opportunity to develop independent learning. We are trying to do this as from this year. We're trying to develop flipped classrooms where the students will be in the classroom, the lecturer acts as a facilitator and not digest everything for the student. The student will be encouraged to develop independent learning. We hope we can do this by transiting to what we call the European Credit Transfer System, where the students will have the chance of doing their learning by themselves. We think that this is important, but we're not only relying on the structural change, we're also looking forward to embed in our different programs entrepreneurship, innovation, soft skills. As you know very well, Industry 4.0 is not only about knowledge. Industry 4.0 is also about using that knowledge and applying the knowledge. And so along with this, there's a number of different things that we have to make sure that our students are fully equipped, like moving from the traditional learning process to a more problem-based learning. Putting it as mandatory that when our students are doing assignments, they have to go through the Turnitin, which is a kind which checks whether people are plagiarizing or not, or just copying and pasting. So all these things are very important to develop creativity, to develop innovative skills in the students. So this is how we're moving these things forward, along with a lot of other things that we're doing, side by side, to develop entrepreneurial skills through incubators in the emerging technologies, digital printing or 3D printing and so on, but also for example, through the Agri-Tech Park.
You have spoken how the University of Mauritius is improving in terms of management and the day-to-day running, especially for classes and courses. But how is the university addressing what is required to match the gap in terms of Industry 4.0, in terms of the courses that are being offered?
Yeah, well, when we talk of 4.0, some countries have a clear strategy on how to move the whole country to 4.0. We can't do that piecemeal. It's not one institution deciding to do things to move to 4.0. I think it's a whole strategy that has to be put in place, and the proper structure has to accompany that strategy. When we are doing a lot, if I can answer your question, we are doing a lot to address skills mismatch. That is, we are addressing industry's needs. How do we do that? We're working a lot with industry directly to develop programs. A lot of examples can be given. I can give you the example that, where we have developed master's programs with Accenture, for example, company, where we're responding to specific needs of that company in the IT sector. We will do that with other companies in the month to come, in the weeks to come. We'll be signing agreements with other companies in the IT sector to develop, sort of develop programs that respond specifically to their needs. We're also developing other programs in the banking and finance sector with banks, again, to respond to the banking needs. So this is how we are trying to address the skills mismatch. We are inviting private sector. This is very new. inviting private sector to come on campus and to establish, for example, Accenture has got a lab on campus. So having a lab on campus where the students can come and work on campus means a very close relationship with industry. This is the only way we can address those sort of skills mismatch.
Dave Smith, you come from Silicon Valley. This is the heart where all technological developments are being made every day. And we see now technology is taking a very important place in our daily lives, being in any field. Is there a risk that machines will take over humans? Is there a myth about that, or is there a truth about that?
I think the right way to think about this is there is a wave of in fact, there are multiple waves of technology that are merging and converging and evolving all simultaneously. So biological systems, data analytics, mobile networks, all of these things are evolving at a pace that's difficult for most people to assimilate as quickly as the innovations occur. I guess the thing that to keep in mind is that at the end of the day, humans will still be the center of all these innovations. Even when we talk about big data, the whole point of big data in dealing with data sets that are too large to be handled with traditional database technology, it's really focused on human behavior. Human behavior involves complexity that happens to generate a lot of data. So I think the thing people really need to keep in mind is that we're still going to be relevant. We're still going to be at the center of the motivation and the purpose for all of this innovation. So
now we are talking about the new generation, which is using these new technologies, and we wanted to not their lives turn around that. How do you get this human touch while educating them? How do you introduce this way of behaving, and what changes do you see coming next?
Oh, well, many of them are preparing themselves in the technologies and the devices that they adopt and that they seem to acquiesce to using quite readily. But I think it's important, regardless of what field young people decide they want to go into, whether it's medicine or law, they're going to be impacted, they're going to be affected by technology. So I think it's important that at an early age, an early journey, in the early part of the educational journey, that students are exposed to information technology, computer science, engineering, and get a sense of what it's all about. So it's not so mysterious, and not being so mysterious takes, I think, some of the fear and mystery out of it, and helps them adapt to the emerging marketplace. Because the emerging marketplace is going to reward people who not only have the core skills for whatever specialization that they're pursuing, but are also able to incorporate these technologies into the workflow. That's going to be very important.
Now, with new technologies, all barriers are practically broken. We don't have a barrier of time, we don't have this barrier of distance. We can do business from any place in the world,
Yes.
which means also there's exchange of data which goes around the world, which
Yes.
is being exchanged. And what about security for data protection?
The never-ending task. You know, security is like a cat and mouse game. For every measure, there's a countermeasure, and for every countermeasure, there's a countermeasure. Ultimately, it's going to come down to people understanding and being aware of the implications of using this technology. There's no such thing as privacy as we once understood it. If you're using any kind of technology that's connected to the internet or connected to electronic devices, people have to be aware of that and adjust their behavior accordingly. And I think the biggest challenge is for young people to understand that, because they were born into a time where they were handed this technology without any real counseling or guidance on the implications of not respecting the privacy shortfalls, I should say.
Do you fear or do you think someday people might lose this human touch, humanity? I mean, now, today we're communicating through mobiles, Facebook, or
Yes.
WhatsApp, or all those devices. I mean, we lack this human touch. What can be done? Can be done about that? While teaching, you're teaching about computers and all that. Can we introduce some kind of human touch, and also in this pedagogical way of doing things?
That's a very good question, and boy, I wish I had a ready answer for that. It's actually a bit scary when you just walk around and you observe people interacting with these devices as opposed to talking to the person sitting right next to them. I've even seen families in restaurants where the mom, the dad, the children are all engaged in their devices rather than engaging with each other. I think it'll take a little bit of time, but I think as these things go, the cycles come full circle and people will reach a certain inflection point and turn the devices off and get back to talking to each other. But it's going to take a little time because they've got to get past the fascination of these devices and what they can do, and realize that there's no substitute for actual human interaction.
Jean-Michel Felix, you are the CEO of MCB Consulting. We now speak of Industry 4.0, Banking 4.0. So what are all these changes? What's happening? Why is it all important to your group?
Right. I think the first thing we should say is that whatever the number we want to associate to the evolvement of technology or industry, change is always constant. We need to adapt ourselves because the world is changing. If you see a picture of a car 100 years ago, you see a picture of a train 100 years ago, but you will see how much change has been disruptive. Sometimes change has been positively disruptive, and sometimes it's been negatively disruptive. So whether we like it or not, we need to adapt, sometimes anticipate changes for us to have a better life, whether it is from a business perspective or from an individual perspective.
And now from a consulting perspective, how does it work for you?
Right. The first thing is that we are a consulting company, but most of our business is outside Mauritius. In fact, more than 95% of our turnover is outside Mauritius, and we work with totally different cultures. We have clients in Trinidad, we have clients in Palestine, we have clients in Cambodia, and we work a lot in Africa. We are indeed talking a lot about technological changes. Clearly this is very important, but us being a consulting company working with totally different cultures, we need to factor in every time the differences in culture, because you will not be dealing with someone in Palestine like someone in Cambodia or like someone in Trinidad. We really need to have at the center of our business model different cultures, and this is, in fact, this is why we also within MCB Consulting have different cultures working on a day-to-day together, so that they can better service our clients who are indeed across 4 different continents in the world.
Ms. Asha Gangadin, you are the corporate project manager at the Sun Resorts. So we're speaking about Industry 4.0. How does this affect you in the hospitality sector?
Okay, in the hospitality sector, where we deal with guests day in, day out, the Industry 4.0 is always leaning towards giving the best guest experiences to the people who come to us. So we start from the pre-booking stage to the post-stay, and the aim is to be able to give customer experiences right from the pre-booking stage, so we can personalize the guest stay in our resort. So we start with an automation of booking, where if the guest has been with us before, we can prompt their preferences during the booking, then get an idea of their likes and dislikes. If they have allergies, we can record all of that, so that when we come to the resort, we can personalize their stay. It also means that the guest is able to choose whatever amenities they want in their rooms, or whether they want any leisure activities. So Industry 4.0 goes towards bringing that additional touch of personal experiences without the guest feeling that there's technology behind driving it. So we focus on customer experiences leveraged by technology.
Does this mean that there is a lot of quality management involved in customizing the stays of each and every client?
Yes, we go into the nitty-gritty of planning personal experiences. So based on the data that we have gathered either from social media on the guests or from the guest preferences from previous stay, we can already generate packages for them that they would wish to have with us.
Investment in technology is very important. Please share with us what are the changes that you have gone through over the past few years.
Okay, so we've started with reorganizing our whole processes and our IT systems. We have put in place a CRM that would be allow us to gather data and to be able to do effective data mining so that we can generate preferences. We have also installed an ERP system that would allow us to capture information, billing information, get it as fast as possible to the client. We have invested heavily in Wi-Fi and mobile technologies so that we can personalize the guest stay or make it as easy as possible. We are investing heavily in digital marketing as well, and we keep tracking our guest scores or performance ratios so that we know that as soon as a guest is leaving or even before he comes, what were his previous comments and how we can improve on that.
Business Connect, that's it for this edition. Find this program on our website and also follow us on our Facebook page. We'll see you next time for another edition of Business Connect. Till then, it's goodbye.